high-powered panel here on Times Now. Viewers Swapnil Kothari, Arima Sundaram, and of course, Mr. Majeed Memon, all notable lawyers. Yes, Swapnil Kothari, on that point.
Yeah, Rahul, I completely agree with Mr. Sundaram on the point that asking for interim relief has got nothing to do with the length of the arguments on that part. But he and I both will know that oftentimes, these things will always depend upon the axiomatic questions, which I have always mentioned, those being resolved first, and then going on to interim reliefs, because again, there'll be arguments put up by the Advocate General or by the petitioners, one way or the other, saying that, giving an interim relief on this would amount to this, would amount to giving a resolution to that. Now, Justice Dixit may have been, in his wisdom, sought to say that, okay, let's best that the Supreme Court deals with this issue and walks out of this entire fracas, or entire melee, as I would put it. But, let there be a constitution bench formed, let there be arguments taking place, so that the education of the girls, the examinations that they have to give, which are there within a span of 1.5 to 2 months, the time being the crucial factor here. That is the only difference that I have as far as this particular issue is concerned. As far as the interim relief was concerned, the Justice Dixit should have decided it himself also, and it would not have really made any constitutional difference or any difference on a larger issue of any sort. It will be merely a balance of convenience issue on the basis of the fact that, look, this is a practical standpoint. Let us try to go to status quo. It does not amount one way or the other. Interim reliefs are given ad nauseum by the courts, both the High Court and the Supreme Court. So on that point, I respectfully differ with Mr. Sundaram that Supreme Court need not have gone into that. They can do that later on, deciding on axiomatic questions is a different thing. They can vacate the interim relief thereafter if they want to, once the entire major practical issue of the girls giving the exams is over. And yes, the fundamental rights are always pressed against the state. And that is exactly how this whole entire thing has been pitched, that it is the state which is the villain here, and it is the culprit here, and that is the reason why you have to oppose the state on the basis of the fundamental right. And this issue has been raised only 12 days earlier.
But can I come in?
Are known.
Are there not any, and I want to ask this of the panel and Arima Sundaram, there have been instances in the past where the state has come in and taken it upon itself, whether it's the courts or, of course, the legislatures have taken it upon itself to pronounce either injunctions or pronounce on religious injunctions, strike them down, pass laws against them, and that has also happened. So how do you square that with the argument you were making, Mr. Sundaram, earlier, that the state can't get in? Fine, the school can, but the state can't.
Let me answer you straight away. There have been occasions in the past where the state has made laws. For example, let's say our triple talaq, all these kind of things have come up. There's no doubt about it. Then it has been challenged in court, saying that this runs against our religious tenet. And the courts have gone into the question, is it a fundamental part of your religious tenet? Is it a religious issue? Is it something from the scriptures? If the court finds, yes, it is, then the court will naturally say, then your right under 25 is attracted. But if the court finds that it is nothing to do with your religious tenet itself, then Article 25 would not come in the way, and, for example, the ruling in the triple talaq matter. Now, this is one aspect of it. What I'm referring to is, if the state starts saying that, look here, girl students shouldn't wear hijabs, these girls who are in the south shouldn't wear nose screws when they come to schools, or Sikh boys should not wear turbans, then those decisions of the state can be tested on the anvil of arbitrariness.
That's fine.
As to whether it infringes on a freedom of choice, whether that restriction on the way I'm being dressed and the state imposing it on me violates a fundamental right of mine, either under Article 14 or Article 21, freedom of choice or arbitrariness. But if the school imposes it, then it is a school's uniform, which is a uniform
but even
for that school.
In the past,
and
Arima Sundaram,
if a parent
even
says,
when
I
schools,
don't want my daughter to go to school in a
sure,
skirt,
I understand
then the parent will choose some other school.
I understand that. And that position has been clarified, that schools have a right to impose their dress code. There are judgments, because when schools have done so in the past, they have been also taken to court, and these entire issues have come up, and the courts have usually sided with the schools and their implementation. Okay, let me bring in.
And rightly so.
And
Rahul,
rightly so. Rightly so.
I am saying
yes.
The question of whether when the school imposes it,
yes,
it's a matter of a school rule.
Okay.
But when the state imposes it, then a person can start pleading Article 14, Article 21, fundamental right of choice. Is there a difference? Is there a discrimination?
Let me bring
is a student of another, a Sikh student allowed to wear a turban? I'm not allowed to wear
of course.
hijab. These questions come up for argument.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
That's a fine point, and it's a valid point to make. Of course, they will be challenged. I want to bring in Majeed Memon. Majeed Memon, there has been a lot of hysteria around this decision by some of the schools there, the pre-university colleges, let me be specific, imposing a dress code. And it is being assumed that it is being done out of a malignant mindset, which is opposed to Muslims in general. Now, do you believe, and I want to ask you this specifically, do you believe that this is justifiable, this attack against the school, which made the students commit on a paper, an acknowledgement, an undertaking signed by them to the uniform?
See, the schools have their own privileges, their own rights and powers in framing their regulations with regard to the conduct, the uniform, etc. of the pupil who would be admitted to receive education within the school campus. And therefore, to that extent, one has to see whether those restrictions or those rules are in any way directly affecting the rights of common people as guaranteed under the Constitution of India, the students or their parents. Now, if there are restrictions by the schools, it is between the schools and the pupil. Now, in today's controversy, which has raged so much and created so much of hue and cry, and there has been closure of schools and colleges throughout the state for 3 days, adding to the tragedy of the students who have been deprived of education on account of COVID for more than 2 years. That again, this kind of situation has arisen, which is very unfortunate. Now, we must, Rahul, appreciate, I have heard the learned advocates who were speaking a bit before me, Mr. Sundaraman and others. Let me tell you that the learned single judge was probably hearing three parties. One is, of course, the agitating petitioners, the students on their behalf. The second would be the school, which certainly is the most important party in the issue. And third, the state. And we found that the learned AG representing state was very vehement in opposing petition, including even opposing interim order. That is what we have been shown by your channel also, as the matter proceeded even today after yesterday's adjournment. Now, the matter, of course, goes to larger bench as this learned judge has infilled. Let me just have a minute to tell you that Kerala High Court in 2016 has decided in Amna Bashir's case on the same issue of hijab and the uniform. That was a single judge observation, and this learned judge who was hearing current petition, of course, is not bound by that single judge's findings, but he could have followed that or he could have disagreed with that. But he has rightly felt that it seems there is confrontation of sets of fundamental rights, fundamental obligations of common citizens who are students or parents, and educational institutions and state. These are three parties. Now, state, as we discussed a few minutes before, has every right to make policies, even make laws. They can go to the assembly, Karnataka assembly can pass some law, and that can be implemented. Of course, that could be challenged and tested as far as its constitutionality is concerned. That is the procedure in a democratic manner. State can always make policies even about the compulsions to be imposed upon the students who are seeking education within their own limits. Now, we come to the second party, namely the school. The schools administrations are directly concerned with the pupils, and therefore they would be justified in making their own rules. Now, as far as the current dispute is concerned, what we find is that before the COVID closure, the hijab was being permitted. And what has happened suddenly, that the school has to stop the students from entering with hijab. And what we find yesterday, Muskan, that girl who has become popular overnight in 24 hours, that she walked in among the saffron-clad people fearlessly and then challenged them alone. So therefore, all TV channels are showing her, where she said that the principal is helping her. The principal, the school authorities are with her. And they say that, yes, we will protect you. We will ensure that you are not disturbed. Now, this would only show that school was with the petitioners as far as the litigation is concerned.
No, that unfortunately, sir, about bodily harm and about invoking the principle, right. Now you're blurring right. The lines. That's not right. They said, yes, we are going to protect you if you are feeling threatened, etc. But that doesn't mean that they have abnegated the dress code. That is an interpretation you're making. There is no evidence to suggest that.
Rahul, I will ask you a question.
Majid Saab, I just want to ask you, there have been a large number of photographs also. The converse question, please listen to me, sir. The converse question can also be asked. Why suddenly this hangama over hijab? Because in the past we have yearbooks, the 2021 yearbook, where no girl is wearing a hijab. So when they want to pose for the cameras, they've removed their hijab.
Rahul,
so why suddenly now become so parochial and assertive about wearing the hijab?
Rahul, permit me to say, I have seen you in your channel yesterday itself reflecting that assembly photograph where there are no hijabs and therefore why you are insisting on hijab. This is no argument, I'm telling you. It's an absolutely absurd argument.
I'm not saying that. I'm questioning the timing and the motive of this outrage about that the hijab is an integral part of our identity and we must look, everyone has a right to invoke their religious markers, no problem with that. But when there is a uniform, and 1 year back during the COVID or in the interim when the COVID had subsided, the second wave, and people went back to school, the students were asked to sign an undertaking which committed them to a particular kind of dress and attire. When schools reopened, that attire was sought to be upheld, and anyone found to be in violation of the dress code was asked not to attend. It's as simple as that.
No, this argument of yours would certainly weigh very heavily in favor of the state in the court, but I don't know whether this argument was advanced in the manner which you are arguing.
No, I'm sure it must have been, sir, because I'll tell you, yes, it was. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. One of the advocates. No, sir. Let me allow. Please. You see, I'm not speaking through the top of my head here. Let me just very quickly quote to you what Mr. Pavaiya, who represents the CDC, said. He said, "I represent the CDC, which runs the college. The prescription of uniform was there since 1 year. Nobody complained earlier. Now it is being raised." So the question about timing can equally be asked of all the petitioners and all of the ecosystem, from the SDPI to the PFI to the campus Front of India to others who have suddenly leapt in and made this an issue. That question can easily be applied to them.
No, see, Rahul, the merits of certain imposition or certain compulsions can always be tested by law. There's nothing wrong.
Talking about, sir, this whole idea that India is becoming a Hindu Rashtra, where is this gaining ground from? In Kerala, you had the same ruling. In fact, there, the Muslim Education Society said, hijabs, burqas, nothing doing. In none of our classrooms are we going to permit this. We want uniformity even in our schools in the Middle East. We will not apply this. Then there was no hangama.
No, Rahul, let us not talk of other countries.
No, I'm talking about Kerala. It's not in other countries, sir. It's one of our states.
Kerala is fine. You see, let me tell you one thing. See, if there are, as you are saying that there is Hindu, now tell me who were the people, who were chasing Muskan in the college complex with saffron shawls, etc. Who were
I want to get into an argument where the facts are not available to me. Similarly, it could be said, who are the others who showed up wearing burqas and shouting Allahu Akbar when the school students weren't doing this? So you see, sir, polarization has taken place, and I don't want to go down that route. I'm only asking you. Here is a matter of uniformity. Since when did this become a matter of, Hindutva, assertion? I don't understand this. And do you think it is right that it has been given this strange religious communal tinge? That's the question.
It becomes so, the apprehension of minority is that in the college compound, the whole world has seen on various television channels, there were men who did not appear to be either students or staff of the college, and who were to be protected from by the principal to a solitary girl who was running in between them. Who were they? If it is not Hindutva, who were they? Please,
sir, there are a large number of other people from the Popular Front of India, the Campus Front of India, that also accompanied the girls. Now, they are not any great secular...
But we don't approve their presence.
You suddenly had Bhim Army people show up there, and you know what Bhimrao Ambedkar has said about the burqa in no uncertain terms. So, I mean, let's not go down that route.
No, both sides. See, I'm not supporting one side.
Yeah, so let's forget this. I'm only saying why when Kerala passes the same sort of order, it is taken in the spirit. When Karnataka passes that order, it is thought to be a Hindutva directive. Why? How can there be two principles? I want to ask you this question.
See, in Kerala, the facts and circumstances, the situation may be different.
No, what situation is different, sir? The principle is the same. It's uniformity. Come on, the point I'm trying to get at, sir, you're a very senior lawyer, sir. And the point that, look, anything can be challenged, there has to be a test of constitutionality is very well taken. But all I'm saying is, sir, you also wear a political hat. I think it's very, very scary when a rule applied in one state is treated differently and seen through a different prism when the same rule is applied in another state, depending on political persuasions. And I think that is a very scary, slippery slope to be on. Because then we are dividing people. We are creating suspicions. And I think, sir, as a very senior representative, not just of the judiciary, but of your party, you should take a very firm view on this. Majeed sir.
I agree, Rahul, that nobody is justified in dividing society.
Yes.
The only question is, who is dividing society where we are making mistakes? That's all.
Okay,
we are making error on that.
Okay, okay, fair enough. So, look, we'll keep going around in circles. Aryaman Sundaram, Mr. Swapnil Kothari, and of course, Mr. Majeed Memon, thank you very much for having this discussion. One of the finest discussions on this issue concerning three top lawyers pitching in. Let's play out, viewers, what Asaduddin Owaisi told Times Now earlier and what he has been saying on the stump. And you determine for yourself who is lighting the political fires here and fanning them in turn. Let's play out that soundbite. Asaduddin Owaisi on the campaign stump in Uttar Pradesh, lighting a fire, a communal fire around this. Let's listen in.
ये जो लड़ाई है ना, इसको हिजाब से या मुसलमान से मत जोड़िए. ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट के अपने प्रोटेक्शन की लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं लड़कियां. और ये नोटिफिकेशन जो इशू हुआ पहले तो नहीं था. सुप्रीम कोर्ट का पुट्टुस्वामी का जजमेंट ये कहता है कि कौन क्या खाता है, क्या पहनता है, वो उनका चॉइस है. उसमें आपको क्या आपत्ति है?
मुझे कोई आपत्ति
नहीं, मैं आपसे नहीं, मुझसे कह रहा हूँ जी. भाई अगर वो उन्होंने अब शुरू किया, नहीं, पहले से पहन रही हैं, पढ़ रही हैं. ये जो लड़ाई है ना, इसको हिजाब से या मुसलमान से मत जोड़िए. ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट के अपने प्रोटेक्शन की लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं लड़कियां. और ये नोटिफिकेशन जो इशू हुआ पहले तो नहीं था. सुप्रीम कोर्ट का पुट्टुस्वामी का जजमेंट ये कहता है कि कौन क्या खाता है, क्या पहनता है, वो उनका चॉइस है। उसमें आपको क्या आपत्ति है?
मुझे कोई आपत्ति
नहीं, मैं आपसे नहीं, मुझसे कह रहा हूँ जी भाई, अगर वो उन्होंने अब शुरू किया, नहीं पहले से पहन रही हैं, पढ़ रही हैं।
आमचं हेच मत आहे की त्याचं जे जिथे जिथे युनिफॉर्म आहे तिथे युनिफॉर्म पाळला गेला पाहिजे. शाळेंमध्ये कॉलेजेसमध्ये धार्मिक कुठेही वाद येऊ नये ही आमची भूमिका आहे. कारण शाळा कॉलेज हे शिक्षणाचं विद्यालय आहे. तिथे आपण शिक्षणची जी भूमी समजतो, जिथे जिथे युनिव्हर्सिटीज असतील, जिथे जिथे शाळा असेल, तिथे कुठे राजकीय किंवा धार्मिक किंवा कुठचाही वाद येऊ नये. चांगलं शिक्षण मिळावं, दर्जेदार शिक्षण असावं, हे शिवसेनेची भूमिका आहे.
Mr. Karim, the High Court has come out today during the hearing, and they have said there should be no gathering, protest within 200 meters of schools in Karnataka for next 2 weeks. So the law and order situation that was going out of hand, now the High Court has had to intervene. How do you see this?
See, it may be in the backdrop of the law and order situation, maintaining the law and order situation. While the issue was before the High Court should have been made an attempt to settle that issue. This is only an interim arrangement also. What happened, I don't know.
एक महिला का अधिकार है, वो बिकिनी पहनना चाहे, वो हिजाब पहनना चाहे, वो घूंघट लगाना चाहे, वह साड़ी पहनना चाहे, वह जीन्स पहनना चाहे. इसमें कोई राजनीति की बात नहीं और ना होनी चाहिए. स्कूल में बिकिनी कहाँ से आ गई प्रियंका जी? आप वो शैक्षिक संस्थान की बात है. देखिए आप गोलमोल करके कुछ भी कह सकते हैं. किसी का अधिकार नहीं है कि वो एक महिला को कहे कि तुम ये पहनो. आपको मैं कह रही हूँ वो स्कार्फ उतारो अपना. आप कहाँ भी जहाँ भी हो, मुझे क्या अधिकार है आपको ये कहने का? नहीं है. सिंपल.
ये चुनाव की बात नहीं है, इसमें ये बात समझिए. इसका ये देश सिविल वार मोदी जी की सरकार में सिविल वार किया जा रहा है, और सिविल वार होगा तो इसकी जिम्मेवारी इनकी होगी सब लोग.